Hey there, welcome to Bentley Guitar. Today we're going to take a look at this cool Fractal VP4, a new pedal from Fractal. I think it's fantastic. Let's see how I'm integrating this into my whole sound here. So as you can see, I have the VP4 and the FM9 on the floor here. You can use the VP4 for standard amplifiers, like the amplifiers behind me, and it's going to be fantastic for that usage as well. But let's take a look at how we can marry this to one of the other Fractal pedals with all the amp modelers in it. You can use this with the XFX3, I'm sure, as well, too. What I'm doing is plugging directly into the VP4, and from the VP4, I'm plugging directly into the FM9. I did try this with SPDIF cables, and I didn't really like the result. I think it's too many digital analog conversions. And then I also tried to put it input 3, output 3 into the signal chain. Seems to be working best right in front of the entire unit, but we'll see where we go from here. So what I'm doing is I'm using this for compression and for drive pedals to save memory on the FM9. The unit's fine for pretty much everybody else, I'm sure, but for me, I like to have a lot of different possible sounds playing live in studio, teaching, whatever. So I have this set up now, so I have my chorus, all the different presets. Here's phaser and flanger and delay, multi-delay, they're both together, reverb, as you can see, rotary and tremolo. This is marked as Univibe. It's the same thing as the phaser, but on a different set there. And in this particular preset, I have no compression. As you can see, compression's empty here. And there's no drive either. As you can see, the drive pedal's empty here too. Now they're still there because other times, if I don't want to use this other pedal in front of it, they're still programmed into the entire ecosystem. So what I'm doing here is using this for compression and then staging the drive pedals. So this is a really cool thing. As you can see, it's on true bypass there. When I'm not using it, it's just bypassed straight through. True bypass. That flanger seems to stay on a lot. So it's on true bypass. And the way this works is if I push both of these buttons together, you can see that it says presets, scenes, effects, or tuner. So if I go to effects right here, if I push on this compression and I hold that down, I've got 4 different options of compression: analog compressor, Dynacomp, tube compressor, optical compressor. So if I play through the analog compressor and I want to try the Dynacomp instead, I just push this button. Now I don't have all the levels set properly yet, so forgive me for that. Here's tube compressor, and I can switch and mix and match those to whatever I want them to be by holding down that button. So when you're in the this effects mode, if you hold the button down, then you have a choice of 4 that you can put in there and enter into that sort of bank there. So I'm going to choose the analog compressor. It's already there. So now I've got that going on. So I'm already ahead of the game here. I'm playing a song and I want to add compressor to the sound. I push that button down and I have a compressor. So it's that simple. But let's say I want to add some distortion as well. So some of the distortion pedals that I really love are things like the Klon. You pay like $10,000 for a new Klon, or $5,000 or whatever. This does that for you and is part of this unit. I mean, it's already worth the price right there. So the Klon is a great pedal. It's one of those kind of pedals that you can leave on all the time, and it just kind of colors your sound. So for this level, I have these pedals that are mildly distorted. So I'm doing this in gain stages. Here's the Zen Master. It's another great one. Hold this down. Here's King of Tones. King of Tones is also a really famous low-level gain pedal. And here's a Tube Driver 3 knob. They all sound so dramatically different from each other. They're all really useful. So that's my second gain stage. Now right now I'm playing through a matchless amp. So it's got a nice jazzy clean sound. This is probably the tone I use the most for jazzy stuff. So the distortion pedals aren't really going to work all that well with this necessarily. They're okay. It's better, I think, if you use a distortion pedal on an amp that's already distorted. That's the way it works in the real world. So it probably will work in this Fractal ecosystem as well. I've been doing Fractal pretty much full time here for about 5 years, so I'm pretty familiar with all of this stuff. Now, I'm going to go over here to Robin Ford Overdrive Supreme, a Dumble 100-watt Dumble sound. So here's my straight sound, a little bit of distortion, but not that much distortion. You know, great for your blues stuff. Now I'm going to put a little compression on that. It's a little bit of noise. You hear that? But that's normal. You're going to get noise anyways, because that's what a compressor does. It's like really squeezing everything a little bit. So there is that, but that's going to happen inside the unit as well. I've been doing a lot of testing. Now let's go to the second button here, and I'm going to choose the Klon, I think. Now listen how nice and bitey that is. Now I'm finding this pedal is great to leave on for everything. I've always wanted to have one, and now I do. You'll notice it's showing clipping on there, and that's okay. I have this set it to 6 dB pad. I tried the 12 and I tried the 18 to give it more headroom, I guess, and it still clipped a little bit anyways, but I found it was a lot noisier when you turned on more of the higher pads. So I'm just leaving it at 6. Seems to be working okay. So now, in my world here, let's say I want to go to the third bank and see what I got hiding under the hood here. There's a Blues Overdrive. That's like your standard Boss pedal. And then here's a Timothy pedal. That's a really cool, gnarly sound. Now, I found that works really well together with, for example, the Klon. So it's a really cool combination of those two. Back to this gain stage. If I hold that down, I have a modified tube screamer now. And that next level, hold it down again, and I can do this fuzz face. This is a PI fuzz. That's a cool sound too. And then you can do combinations of all of those. The fourth level is even more distortion. Hold that down. Here's a BB Pre. That's in Exotic Effects. I love the sound of the BB Pre. Might be my favorite pedal on this entire thing. It's a really cool sound. Hold that down, and I'm going to choose the Sir Riot instead. Okay, cool. Let's see what else we got here. Here's a Rat distortion. Of course, you can't go wrong with a Rat distortion. Of course, you can choose to change any of these sounds. If I go into Enter here, I can take the Rat distortion pedal and change things. I can change the level of distortion, the volume, the filter. This is what's on the original pedal here. If you keep scrolling through, you can get more parameters. That's the original pedal. So if it's not the right volume, you have to mix and match and mess around with this stuff, just like you do with presets and the amplifiers to level everything out. So in the live performance, it's all going to be the same level. If I'm done changing that, I push Enter, and I'm back out of that again. Back into, hold on a second, I think it's actually home, my fault. Go to home. Now, let's say I want to have more than that, and that's already a lot, right? So apparently there's 60 different distortion pedals right now in this Fractal world. I'm sure that's going to continue to grow. And I've always thought it'd be cool to be able to sort of try out every single different distortion pedal. I know that sounds nuts, but behind me I have this analog pedal board that's about $10,000, right? Has everything I ever wanted before I ever got into the modeling world. And that also has gain stages. There's a low gain distortion pedal, a mid gain distortion pedal, and then a high gain distortion pedal, and also a fuzz. So we could have all those different things working. There's a Katana Blues Drive, and then a modified Tube Screamer, which is Analog Man Silver Mod. And then I have a Rock Box, which is a really cool sort of boutique distortion pedal for like the Van Halen sound. And then a Sun Face fuzz face pedal from Analog Man. So I wanted to be able to kind of accomplish that in Fractal. And one of the things I like about this is that sort of like on a helix, you can see with the scribble strips, you can see the name of the effect you're using. Like if it's a Klon, it'll say Klon, it won't just say distortion. Well, this now takes care of that with Fractal. Again, push 1 and 2 together, and now I'm on a different scene here, a different screen, I should say. If I push preset, I've set up preset 2. If it says drives 2, user drives 2, for a completely different batch, if you will, of all these different pedals. So back to effects again. And now I have 4 different compressors: Studio FF sustainer, compander, Studio FF compressor, Studio FB compressor, to try out at will over the course of time to see what they sound like. And also to see how they interact with different amplifier models, because all the different amplifier models have different characteristics. So the one pedal might sound good with one type of amp, but then another pedal might sound good with a different type of amp. And this really gives you a chance to get into the distortion pedals and the compressor pedals and find out what really works with everything together synergistically. And that's such a cool thing. Let's go to Studio FF, I guess. And I'm going to switch amps again. I'm going to put on a kind of a Van Halen sounding, I think it's the Britt Brown model. And so I have this kind of set up here to sound like early Van Halen. Now, granted, I'm not tuned down a half step, but if I go, it's pretty close to a Van Halen sound. So what I'm going to do is let's see what happens if I push some of these pedals. Here's my drive 2. All right, so I have DS1 distortion, DS1 distortion mod, full tone overdrive. Now, I love that pedal. I think there's a blue one sitting on that car amp right there behind me. Just that's that pedal. I'm not going to work it on these levels, but this is already sounding better. Here's with. Let me take that back off again and go back to the effects here. Take it off. So here's without it. Here's with it. So it's changing the color. And the third bank here, I have 4 more distortion pedals: the Griddle Cake, Eternal Love, Plus Distortion, and Exotic AC. So the Exotic AC is a booster that I actually have on my analog pedal board, so I know what that's supposed to sound like. So I can even get an idea how this sounds compared to the real thing too, which is also sort of super fun. This is the stuff that you kind of waste your life away doing, right? This is so much fun. I love all these cool fractal toys. All right, so then we have the Valve Screamer VS9, the BB Pre Andy Timmons model, and I've tried that one before too. That's really smooth sounding. So if you want to get that to marry its sort of counterpart, if I go in here and go to this Lone Star amp, which is what Andy Timmons uses, that should sound, in theory, pretty good, right? We'll see what happens. So if I back here to effects again, I'll turn it off first. Here's the Lone Star amp. And here's the pedal. It sounds so creamy and smooth, like it should. I knew it was going to sound creamy and smooth because it's sort of baked into that pedal's sound. So let's go back to the Van Halen sound again, or Britt Brown, and we're going to take this back again to preset 1, which I'm really familiar with, and we're going to put on, hold on a second, something wrong there. 1 second, let's go back again to, so I have to go to, see, I'm already trying to figure this out. Here's preset 1. Okay, now we're good. It should blink back off again. Good. Now we're on preset 1. And let's take this back here and go back to effects mode. All right. So now, the Klon is such a great sound for adding just a little bit of crispiness to regular distortion that needs something, right? So if I play... Watch what this does. Now, let's go ahead and add another level to it. Let's put on the Timmy too. These two seem to talk really well together. They work really well together, those two different sounds. Over here, we got the BB Pre. So I really like the BB Pre. That's one that I'm familiar with. So if I try that with the Klon, let's try that with King of Tones. The King of Tones seems to be a little smoother than the Klon. No, I wouldn't have known that had I not bought this pedal. Now I'm starting to get to know these. See, it's smoother sounding than if I take that, and here's Quan. And here is the King of Tones. So, such a cool way to utilize this pedal. Now, you could do the same thing if you wanted to, and you can audition all the reverbs. You could audition all the chorus pedals. You could audition pretty much every pedal you want to. I could do the opposite and make this the modulation side of things and put the distortion pedals into the FM9. But I think it's going to be good for saving space, if anything, just to be able to geek out and have fun with different sounds. But it really seemed to be useful when playing variety type music, and you want to have those modulation effects at your beck and call, like you would if you had some giant pedal board you had to lug. It weighs, this thing's 54 pounds, my pedal board, and I love it, but it's really not that easy to carry. In fact, I had a dream last night about playing guitar, which is normal, and I was playing some open stage, and there was a guitar player here and a guitar player here. I can't remember why everybody was playing guitar at the same time, and I had this little narrow window to make my statement, and I thought to myself in my dream, just occurred to me, I can't fit that giant pedal board into there. I better bring the Fractal stuff and make it smaller, which is funny. That footprint thing matters. It's easier to bring to the gig, and it's also easier to fit on the stage, because the stage is always like ever changing. There's different people, there's more people, less people, more room, less room, closer to the audience, further from the audience, whatever. So having something that's more compressed and smaller seems to be better. I guess that's why those little micro pedals are becoming really popular. So if you get this, not only can you use this pedal for the fly rig kind of thing and use it with expression pedals if you wanted to. You could have 2 of these together and have 8 effects, and that's pretty much good for a career. You can make a board out of that, and that could be what you would use for your analog rig. But you could also just bring just this and have everything you need to play any gig you wanted to. Some distortion and a modulation effect maybe, or compressor, and then delay and reverb, and then you're kind of set. But in this scenario, I think I have 36 distortion pedals put in here at the moment to mess around with, and 16 compressors. So that's a lot to get to know and get to learn the characteristics of as a go-to, sort of the way that I utilize the FM9 now in a live scenario, the way I used to use pedals by choosing amps. I'm going to make a video here about how I use the FM9 live in my setup for that. I think that could be helpful too. I've been messing around with this stuff, like I said, for about 5 years now, and trying to come up with the most useful ways to utilize these fantastic tools for playing live gigs, for recording music, and also for teaching too, for everything that there is for guitar. So I have a Fractal thing in front of me pretty much all day long at all times now, whether I'm here at my studio here, or if I'm at my studio at work, or wherever I go, there's always some Fractal thing tagging along. So VP4, really, really cool thing. You might really enjoy messing around. And if you think this would be a good idea to save space for your FM9 or your FM3, even better, it's a great way to utilize the unit to get more space and more memory. And in my case, the distortions are first. All right. Well, thanks so much for checking out the video. Make sure you look for the one about the FM9. I'm going to get into that next here. And thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you next time.